Hello, hello. Welcome back. My name is Robin Norgren, and I am starting a series, or doing a series. You've caught me in the middle of the series on saints. As a Protestant, I have not been raised to really have an understanding of sainthoods and saints, or any of the saints that have been given that particular title. And so I really felt led to start understanding more and more why someone is sainted. And so if you are someone like me who hasn't really been introduced to this kind of language before, what I'm doing is I'm putting it in video series, 5 at a time. That way you can come along with me and learn about these saints. I am using a book as a guide. This book is called A Saint a Day, and it is edited by Meredith Hines. I will put it down in the comments, and then that way if you would like to pick up a copy, feel free. It's beautifully laid out, has beautiful pictures, and then what I'm most drawn to is it is connected with a Bible verse, and it also gives us a prayer for us to connect with the work of that saint. So let's get started. The first saint I'm going to talk about is Saint Berard. And the Bible verse connected with this story is Psalm 73:26. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Berard and his friends chose a dangerous mission. They left their homes in Italy to go preach in lands where the truth about Jesus were both unfamiliar and unwelcome. Everywhere Berard and his friends went, they were treated badly, and their message was not accepted. But they didn't give up. When they eventually went to Morocco, they were killed by a leader who had had enough of their preaching. As far as they knew, no one came to know Jesus as a result of their mission, not even one person. This sounds like a terrible failure, but did they really fail? Their courage inspired people back home in Italy and beyond, who would later do amazing things for God. Jesus, help me remember that you have the whole story in mind. What looks like failure may be a new beginning. Give me the courage to share the good news like Saint Berard. Next, we have Saint Anthony of Egypt. Psalm 41. I wait patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. Anthony lived in the desert. There were almost no people, hardly any buildings, and very few ways to get food. So why live there? Anthony wanted to know God and see God. Anthony left all of life's distractions behind him, and in the silence of the desert, God's answers were clear to Anthony. Anthony wasn't concerned about finding the best tasting food or doing the most fun activity, so he concentrated on hearing God's voice. And God revealed to Anthony that Christians are fighting a battle against the devil. Christians find strength by getting rid of distractions and turning to God, just as St. Anthony did. Jesus, help me to turn to you instead of distractions. Saint number 3 is Servant of God, Mother Mary Lang, and she is also on track to become a saint. Philippians 4:6. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Mary Lang met other people's needs, even when the needs were great. Mary lived during the 1800s in America. In many places, white children could go to school and black children couldn't. Mary saw this pattern across her city, and Mary, who was black, wanted black children to be able to attend school too. She wanted to give them that education herself. But in the 1800s, black people didn't usually become priests or teachers. But Mary trusted that God would make a way for her. Mary spent her life, her work, and her prayers on creating a school that welcomed black students and teachers. God made Mary's impossible school possible. Jesus, remind me to ask you for the impossible, just like servant of God, Mother Mary Lang. I feel like as I'm reading it, I get a little teary-eyed just thinking, how, again, these just sound like ordinary stories that I'm sharing. And yet you probably know people who are just doing these ordinary things that we know feel spectacular. But because as Protestants, we don't know any of the saints' stories, where we just think, oh, they must have, everything I will say is, in my mind, is about Mother Teresa, right? So if you're not doing that level, then you would not ever even deem yourself of being close to sainthood. And it's not just to necessarily pat yourself on the back, but it's just to remind you that you are doing God's work, So the next saint is Saint Fabian. 1 Samuel 16:7. The Lord said to Samuel, "The Lord does not see as mortals see. They look on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." In the year 236, the church in Rome needed a new leader, or pope. Priests and bishops gathered to choose the new leader. Many important people insisted that they should be chosen. "I have land," one would say. "I have money," said another. Fabian came to the meeting, but he was not important. He came to help choose a leader, not to become one. But as the story goes, a beautiful white dove flew down and landed on Fabian's head during the middle of the argument. Everyone stopped talking and stared, then chose him as the new pope. Fabian must have thought, "Me? I'm not important. I don't have money or power to give." But God doesn't need our power and our money. God works wonders through people who give their hearts to him. Jesus, you see my heart. Give me a heart full of love for you. All right, our last saint is Saint Sebastian. Mark 8:35. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. 1,000 years after he died, artists still paint pictures of Sebastian. Their paintings show a young man pierced by many arrows. The paintings are beautiful, but the truth is that historians don't really know how Sebastian died. But they do know Sebastian was a martyr, a person killed for believing in Jesus, that Jesus is the Savior of the world. Many of the saints in this book are also martyrs, just like Sebastian. Dying for God can be a beautiful act of service to him, even more beautiful than paintings and songs. All the martyrs in history imitate Jesus, who gave his life for us on the cross as a sacrifice to God. As the story goes, Sebastian lived through the attack with the arrows. He kept on telling others about Jesus, and later he died for his faith in Jesus. It says, because of the story about the arrows, Saint Sebastian is the patron saint of archers and athletes. Jesus, your story is so amazing. Thank you for the courage of the martyrs. So here we are, listening again to ordinary people, really doing ordinary things, and yet they are deemed extraordinary for the faithfulness they have and for the reasons why they're doing it, which is because of their love for God. From the woman who built a school for those who couldn't go to school, from one who goes into the desert so that he can have time of prayer and contemplation, which is usually the way that we think of saints, or probably even more specifically Desert Fathers, which I do plan on doing a series on that. But then even in this segment, something as simple as Saint Fabian, who just went to a meeting to pick the new pope, and the dove just landing on his head, and he didn't come there having any sort of inclination that God was about to choose him publicly, and yet he was chosen. And so I hope that this series is causing something to stir in you. And I would love in the comments for you to tell me what it's stirring in you. I know for me, I'm doing, these videos, and it's definitely very edifying to me, but it's also making me want to reframe the work that I'm doing in the world. I am a teacher by trade, and so much of the work, especially because the age of the children, they're younger kids. So there's not really any sort of like, oh, they come back and thank you. There's no, that's not a part of really that story. You're working with the youngest of kids. And so it can be, not the glamorous, idea of how you'd like to serve God. But it's reminding me that even in that, my call is not to decide whether it's glamorous enough, but it is to be faithful to the work in the name of God. All right. Well, thank you for stopping by. I'd love it if you would share this. Like it, of course, if you like it. And I'll see you next time.